we get to the NFC South division now, and I look at this division, and this is an intriguing division, man. A lot of good teams here. Last year, the Saints were 13-3, 5-1 in the division. The Falcons were 7-9 last year. They finished second. I didn't realize just how bad this division was until I started looking at the records from a season ago. Bucs were 7-9 as well, and the Panthers were 5-11. Saints were 5-1 in the division. They cleaned up in the division. The Falcons were 4-2, and that's what gives me hope for them this year. The Bucs were 2-4 in the division, and the Panthers were 1-5 in the division last year. So NFC North and AFC West for this division. Those are two pretty damn good divisions, if I may say so myself. So not going to be easy sledding for this division. However, there are some teams that are going to be able to navigate their schedules pretty effectively and get some wins. We start with the team that's the cream of the crop of the division, and that's the New Orleans Saints. You could easily say, look, the Saints are one injury away from being a mediocre football team. We thought that last year. Teddy Bridgewater steps in, goes undefeated, and the train just keeps rolling on. I don't know if that'll happen with Jameis Winston, but we know he's talented as well. Bottom line is, they're a veteran football team. They're ready to win, and I think Jadeveon Clowney might have been able to put him over the top had he signed in New Orleans. I still think they're missing pass rush up front. You know, I'm about to call him Will Smith. Cameron Jordan is a beast, but he needs some help. He needs some more help off the edge. This is a good football team, though. You know, they got the best wide receiver. You know, if he's not number one, he's number 1B, but with Nuke Hopkins. They've got one of the best running backs in the league in Alvin Kamara, who's about to get a new deal. They've got a veteran quarterback who will be a future first ballot Hall of Famer. They check all the boxes off, man. They just know how to win. They're a veteran team. Defensively, they're up and down. They're hit or miss defensively, and that's what scares me with them. But when they're on and locked in defensively, they're a tough outfit to deal with as well. They're a good football team, and I think they're ultimately going to finish 12-4 this year. And that's not only good enough for the division crown, that's good enough to win the number 1 seed in the first round bye in the NFC playoffs. So I think they're going to be good. But this is the thing about the Saints. They are no strangers to squandering home field advantage in the postseason. They do it almost every year. Home is not home for them once they get to the postseason. You know, outside of the Minneapolis Miracle, they found ways to throw away home field advantage, whether losing to the Vikings last year or a couple of years ago, they were robbed, but they still had a chance to win in overtime. And I hate when everyone talks about that game because they still had a chance to win that game in overtime, and they didn't. So, you know, they find ways to squander home field advantage. So I don't know if that even matters that they'll be the number 1 seed, but they'll be the number 1 seed at 12-4. The Falcons finished 7-9 last year. They were decimated by injuries. And look, their head coach and GM were on the ropes. I mean, rope-a-dope style. That we thought both of those guys were going to end up having the fight stopped by the ref, and those guys are going to be dismissed at the end of the season. But somehow after the bye week, I don't know what the hell happened, but this Falcons team woke the hell up. And I mean in a major way. They go to New Orleans and beat the Saints. The lone loss in the division that the Saints were handed last year came at the expense of these Falcons. They then go on the road to San Francisco, who only lost 3 games in the regular season last year, and dispatch of them as well. This was a team that had it going late in the season, saved both Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff's job. And I think these guys are on a mission because they're not out of the woods yet. They got another lease on life, and I think they're going to take advantage. If they can just stay healthy defensively, one of their biggest issues last year, they could not get off the field on third downs. They could not get after the quarterback. And those two things go hand in hand. If you can't get after the quarterback, he has all day to throw the football. He's going to find somebody on 3rd and 8, and they're going to move the sticks. They go out, they add Marlon Davidson in the draft. They also add, which I thought was the biggest acquisition for them in the offseason, of Dante Fowler Jr. And now all of a sudden they've got a chance defensively with the addition of Keanu Neal back healthy. He's got to stay healthy because to me, he's one of the catalysts of that defense. I love Deion Jones and what he means to that defense. If he's healthy, I think they've got a chance. Not to mention they add another corner who I like in A.J. Terrell. I've always been an Isaiah Oliver fan. I think he's starting to get it at the cornerback position. I think they've got enough stuff defensively to compete. I think they've got it. We know they've got more than enough stuff offensively. I said all of that to say this. I got the Falcons at 10-6 this year, and that's good enough to qualify along with the Saints in this division. Now you get to the Bucs. Everybody's singing the praises of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I told you last year, don't drink the Browns brew. I told you guys to put the cups down. Everyone was drunk off the Browns brew, and by week 7, everybody was trying to sell all of their Browns memorabilia and all of their tickets that they had taken to Vegas on the Browns, and they were trying to sell them off. I'm telling you this year, if you've got stock in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, now is the time to sell while it's still high. Okay, sell it now. Now, they're not going to stink. Okay, not like the Browns did last year. That's not what they're going to do. Brady won't allow it. However, they're not going to be as good as everybody thinks they're going to be. And I've long said this. They're a young team defensively, and that's what's going to hurt them. If Brady and company can score 37 every game, and it's not out of the realm of possibility with all the talent that they have offensively, all right? But if they're not able to score, and I've got questions about their offensive line. I do. And we know Brady is not the same Brady from 5 years ago. He's not the same Brady from 3 years ago. And so you can't allow pressure in the face of Tom Brady. He's not going to react well to it at 87 years old. That being said, with the amount of talent they have offensively and the amount of talent they have defensively, because this is a talented defense, it's just young. And when you're young, you're dumb. And when you're dumb, you make mistakes. And when you make mistakes, you give up touchdowns. And when you give up touchdowns, you lose ball games. And that's what I think is going to happen to the Buccaneers this year, is that Brady isn't the Tom Brady of old that can will teams to victories. We saw that in the playoffs last year. Playoffs? Yeah, we saw it in the playoffs last year. He's not that guy anymore. Now, there's more talent around him on this team offensively than there was in New England. That's an understatement. But when it's all said and done, is I said this earlier on my podcast earlier. You're not going to come in to this division thinking that the Buccaneers, or excuse me, that the Saints and the Falcons are just going to lay down for you. You're not going to stroll in. And first of all, have you seen the Buccaneers schedule? And I get it. No fans in the stands in most of these buildings. And, you know, it's not the same. Have you seen the schedule, though? All right. It's a murder's row schedule. Now, everybody in that division, for the most part, has to play that same schedule. But I said all of that to say this. They're going to struggle at times this year, and they're not going to be as prolific an offensive team as everybody thinks. They're going to be good. Brady can't throw the deep ball. I keep trying to emphasize it. Brady is throwing balloon balls 35 yards down the field. Now, he is going to dissect defenses in the short to intermediate game. He's still sharp as attack when you're talking, 20 yards and in. But when he starts loading up and that back leg and that arm goes forward and he throws that football 80 yards sky high and that thing comes down like a punt, that shit's not going to fly in Tampa Bay. All right, now he's got some guys that can go and get it, especially Mikey, who's already dealing with an injury. Seems like it's a minor one, but nonetheless, I said all of that to say this. They're going to be good. They're just not as good as everybody thinks. And so they're going to be in ball games. This defense is going to struggle. I think they're young and they've got some talent, but they're going to struggle defensively, and I think when it's all said and done, you're looking at a 9-7 football team. Now, in the AFC, that probably would have been good enough to get them in. Sneak in the back door, and then, once you get in, all bets are off. In the NFC, however, 9-7 is not good enough. Too many teams winning double-digit games to get you in at 9-7, and so I got the Buccaneers just missing out on the postseason at 9-7. Now, if Brady's back next year and he's still good, I think next year is the year when this defense starts to really take shape, and they could be really dangerous in year 2 of Tom Brady. And then finally, I've got the Carolina Panthers bringing up the rear in this division. They're going to be a really bad team this year. I really see that happening. And look, here's why. Everywhere that their new head coach has been, and I actually think he's going to turn them around, and I think he's going to have them playing some good football very shortly, okay? Matt Rule is a hell of a coach. Everywhere he's been, he's won. And he hasn't just won, he's won big, okay? And I think he's going to do that in Carolina as well. I don't doubt Matt Rule for 1 second. He's got a philosophy. He knows what he wants, and he goes and he gets those types of players, and he's going to do the same thing in Carolina. He wants speed. He wants athleticism. He wants length. He wants guys that he knows are going to perform at a high level for him, because that's what the analytics say. He's an analytics guy. However, if you go and look at the journey of Matt Rule and how he landed in Carolina, and you look at all of his stops, that first year is always rough. Okay, whether you're talking Temple or you're talking Baylor or you're talking here, it's always rough. And I think it's not going to be different here. I think Teddy Bridgewater is actually going to be really good for them, and they're going to be in some ball games. But he's in the midst of turning over that roster, totally changing the way that this roster looks and feels. And with that comes some bumps in the road. You got Christian McCaffrey. That's good for at least 2 wins right there. And they're going to compete, and they're going to be in some games, and they're going to have a chance. I don't love their skill position, though. I'm not a Curtis Samuel fan. I'm not a big DJ Moore guy. I never have been, really. And so when I look at their collection of talent, I'm like, I'll tell you this much. They're going to struggle this year to win games. They're going to be in games. They're going to struggle to close the show in some games. They're going to lose some games close at the end. And you're going to look up, and the record will not reflect just how competitive they were in 2020. However, look out for these boys in 2021. I'm just saying. Bottom line is, though, I got the Panthers being 4-12 this year. They're going to struggle this year. They're really going to struggle. And I know Panthers fans are saying, how the hell are we taking a step back when we upgraded the quarterback position from all the nonsense we had? And we got all these players that we're really excited about. How are we taking a step back? Because it's a new regime. And when it's new like this, and you're coming in and you're changing everything, you got to struggle first. And Matt Rule, as I've mentioned, struggles in year 1 everywhere he goes. But after that, the rule is on after that. And he's going to start really getting everyone to buy in. He'll get all the players that he's looking for in year 2. And I think they're going to be a troublemaking team. But until then, I think they're going to struggle in year 1. I got the Panthers at 4-12. So this division looks like this. Saints 12-4. Falcons 10-6. Both of those teams qualifying for the postseason. Bucs just missing out on the postseason at 9-7. And the Panthers bringing up the rear at 4-12.
LouieTeeNetwork.